The Whispering Rabbit. Once there was a sleepy little rabbit who began to yawn. And he yawned and he yawned and he yawned and he yawned and he yawned. He opened his little rabbit mouth when he yawned until he could see the white front teeth in his little round pink mouth. And he yawned and he yawned until suddenly a bee flew into his mouth and he swallowed the bee. "Hoo hoo," said an owl. "Always keep your paw in front of your mouth when you yawn," hooted the owl. "Rabbits never do that," said the sleepy little rabbit. "Silly rabbit," said the owl, and he flew away. The little rabbit wanted to call after him, but he opened his mouth to speak, but the bumblebee was curled right up into his throat, and the little rabbit could only whisper. "What shall I do?" he whispered to a squirrel who wasn't sleepy. "Wake him up," said the squirrel. "Wake up the bumblebee." "How?" whispered the rabbit. "All I can do is whisper, and I'm sleepy, and I want to go to sleep. But who can sleep with a bumblebee?" Suddenly, a wise old groundhog popped out of the ground. "All I can do is whisper," said the little rabbit. "All the better," said the groundhog. "Come here, little rabbit." He said, "I will tell you exactly how to wake up a bumblebee. You have to make the smallest little noise that you can possibly make because a bumblebee doesn't bother with the big noises. He's a very little bee and he's only interested in the very little noises." "Like a loud whisper," said the rabbit. "Too loud," said the groundhog, and he popped right back into his hole. "A little noise," whispered the rabbit as he started to make little rabbit noises. He made a noise as quiet as the sound of a bird's wings cutting through the air, but the bee didn't wake up. He made the sound of snow falling, but the bee didn't wake up. So the little rabbit made the sound of a bug breathing and a fly sneezing and grass rustling and a firefighter thinking, but still the bee did not wake up. So the rabbit sat and thought of all of the sounds he could think of. What could they be? A sound quiet as snow melting, as quiet as a flower growing, as quiet as an egg resting in its shell, as quiet as, and then suddenly he knew the little noise that would do it. It was the little click that a bumblebee makes hundreds of miles away in an apple tree, in full bloom, on a mountaintop. It was the very small click of a bee swallowing some honey from an apple blossom. And at that, the bee woke up. He thought he was missing out on something, and so he quickly flew away. And what did that little rabbit do? That sleepy, sleepy little rabbit? Well, he closed his mouth, and he closed his eyes, and he closed his ears, and he tucked in his paws, and he twitched his nose, and he went sound asleep. The end.